Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. We see that we have a ton of people attending virtual.
Good morning.
So there was the big boo. This is going to be a very interactive training. So I do recommend if you are on campus and have the ability to pop over, that would be outstanding. We will try to make it as entertaining for you virtually as we possibly can. You are missing out on the snacks and beach themed decorations, but we'll try to make it as fun as possible. So I want to say good morning and welcome. I know most of you in this room, so I know everybody that I see on the Zoom so far. My name is Gary Holloway, and I work in the College of Health in the Dean Suite. And my role is kind of twofold. I do development work over with the Office of Advancement, and I also do in community engagement events for the college. So I think we probably worked together at some point or other. And they asked me to be the staff instructor for the growth mindset. We'll talk about everybody that is currently receiving growth mindset training on campus, which is, guess who? You.
Yes.
Everybody, right? So faculty, staff, higher admin, everybody is receiving this growth mindset training. So we want to make sure that nobody is left out and that everybody is aware of the theory and kind of why we're spreading this word across the group. So have a PowerPoint, as all fantastic presentations do. And if you have a question, Catrina is monitoring the chat. So thank you, Catrina. I may not see you all, so make sure that you are, if you're watching this on Zoom, that you can see the classroom as well for some of the activities that we're going to be doing along the way.
I got it.
And this is why Catrina makes my life so much easier all the time. Thank you. All right, so growth mindset. Does anybody have an idea already coming into this session what growth mindset is? Can you make a guess?
So it's having the mindset that we have plateaued, but that we need to grow.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and at the very rudimentary level, with context clues, you should be able to say, well, it's something to help grow your mind, right? Since it's the name of right? Yeah. And when I taught social work classes, sometimes I'd ask people, we have something called a safety plan that they would have to write. And I would say, all right, somebody in class, tell me what a safety plan is. And then I would always get one joker that would raise their hand and go, it's a plan for safety. And you're like, yeah, you're right. Yes, your context clue. So one of the things, if we don't have a really broad knowledge of growth mindset yet, one of the things to do is we don't know if you have a growth mindset. So if we don't know what the term really is or the theory, so what we're going to do is we're going to take an assessment with a QR code. So if you will, does everybody have a phone? Nobody has a all right. Yes. So if you do have a phone, if you would, let's take a picture of this. You know how to do a QR. So it's going to look something like this, a test on growth mindset. Somebody forwarded me this from all the other trainings. So I apologize for all the pop-ups, but what you're going to do is you're going to see 20 questions. All right, so these 20 questions, what you're gonna do is you're gonna answer, and you have like thumbs up, thumbs down on yours, on the phone one. So you don't need to do anything else other than clicking on the question, giving it your rating, and then hitting the next button. So don't worry about scrolling down or scrolling up. Just go through, take a few minutes, and let's answer those 20 questions. So who else was surprised that whether you were more fixed or more growth? That's fine. Right? Like think about like music. Like has anybody tried to play an instrument? Like, and you can learn instrument, right? Like you can learn. Now, do you think that some people are actually born with musical talent? Yes. Right. Yeah. So I tried to play the piano for years. And I tried to the highest I got was I could play When the Saints Go Marching. And then I was struggling with somebody who was like, you know that the piano is just like the same notes over and over and over all the way down. And I was like, man. But I have a little brother who played guitar, drums, and he can play any instrument, just pick it up, he can listen to a song. And then after like 5 minutes, he can play the entire song without looking at sheet music. And so my parents always say, "We got all the musical talent in the family, right?" And you're probably not wrong, but he also does it in his spare time. And so that's what he does, is he goes into his room, his music room, and plays music. It's a hobby. So I think that once you do something, practice it, yeah, you can absolutely get better, which was one of the questions on the quiz. Anybody online want to share what they thought?
I can do that. This is Michelle. I'm in the College of Health. Can you all hear me?
So one moment, I don't think we have our volume turned up. So sorry. All right, try again.
How about now?
Yeah.
Hey. So I got 70-30 for 70% growth, which I was happy to see that. Some of the things though, I'll echo what some other people said. I think for whatever reason, I do think sometimes we are all born with certain kinds of wiring or things that we have some affinity for that we can't necessarily explain. Music is a really good example. I have several musicians in my family, and most of them play multiple instruments. They seem to be able to just pick them up. But also they did work very hard at them, but with crazy results, right? Somebody who can play 4 or 5, 6 different instruments and can learn a new one really fast. I don't have that.
Yeah, I wish I had it too. It is pretty fun.
But I do think you can learn something. It just depends on what bar you set for what you want and the outcome. You know, lots of people I think can play a little bit of something at the piano or guitar or anything if they really try and put their mind to it and practice. But you may not ever reach a certain level.
And Michelle, were you surprised by your 70-30 score?
Maybe. I don't know. I really, I'm kind of the perpetual learner and perpetual student. So I really try a lot of different things and like a lot of different things. There are certain things that math is actually one of them. You know, I suffered dearly through my required math courses and took no more. But I made it.
Yeah.
It was very hard. So.
And I struggle with that too. It's we having teenage daughters. I will tell you, now they're in high school, and I stopped being able to do their math when they were in middle school. They're like, "Can you help me with this?" And I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, "I can help with this. Here's $50. You pay a kid at school to be your tutor," and that's what we're going. So once you got into some of the more advanced, yeah, I agree. Music or math is a big struggle. So let's think about this then with having a growth mindset. We talked about that for a minute, but then you also in your quiz had to do a fixed mindset. So we saw that there are two different spectrums. So I want to share a quick video on what growth mindset and fixed mindset look like.
And there are two types of mindset we can cultivate. One that embraces problems as opportunities to learn, and one that avoids them, often out of fear to fail. People that avoid conflicts can be described as having a fixed mindset. Those who see problems as interesting challenges have a growth mindset. Sometimes we like to switch from one to the other. People have a fixed mindset because they believe that basic qualities like intelligence or talents are fixed traits and that these traits are responsible for success. They often like to document past achievements. With a growth mindset, people believe that new abilities can be developed through practice. This view creates the love for learning that most great leaders and artists have in common. For them, life becomes an exciting journey with endless opportunity to figure out new things and advance. To develop a growth mindset, Dr. Carol Dweck, the Stanford University professor who coined the term, advises leaders, teachers, and parents to celebrate trying. Teachers should applaud students for any grade if they studied hard. Parents should encourage their children to develop any new skill they are interested in. Doing this will make them learn the skill of learning, which will also help them back in the classroom. To illustrate the difference in everyday life, let's observe two imaginary kids. Jay thinks you've either got it or you haven't. Anne knows that she can learn anything if she wants it enough. At physical exercise, Jay avoids challenges. When it's time to jump over the vaulting horse, he's afraid to look stupid and be laughed at. Anne embraces any challenge. It's exciting. It's fun. She knows that failing is part of learning, and if she tries hard, at the end, nobody will laugh at her. Jay avoids feedback. If the teacher tells him how to improve an assignment he has been working on, he takes it personally. Anne knows that to improve, she needs to listen to constructive criticism. She also understands that it's not her that is being assessed, but the results of her work on that one day. Jay always takes the easy road. For example, he likes escalators and hates to take the stairs. When he is practicing the guitar, he stops the moment he's getting stuck. Anne usually doesn't even take escalators. She jumps up the stairs, counts every step in her head, and enjoys feeling the blood rushing through her veins. She practices the drums every morning for 15 minutes. Not that she always enjoys it, but she knows that effort is part of a journey to a more fun life. Anne likes to see others succeed. It inspires her. She knows that if she motivates her friends to get better, she herself is likely to grow too. If his friends try new things and succeed, Jay feels threatened. He's afraid that their success will put pressure on him to do more with his life too. Modern companies look for employees with a growth mindset because they solve problems and persist despite obstacles. To spot the right ones, some ask during the interview whether the job applicant believes if managers are born or if management is a skill learned. Jay thinks that managers are born. Anne gets the job. Neuroscientists support the idea. They confirm that the brain grows like any other muscle in the body, with training. Studies show that adopted twins tend to have higher intelligence compared to their siblings who stayed with their biological parents. The difference appears to come from the higher educational levels of adoptive parents and shows that nurture is more important than nature. A simple switch in how a person views a situation can mean the world of difference. Not just the outcome of that situation, the outcome of that person's place in life. As the late poet Samuel Beckett once said, "Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail better." What do you think about the concept? Is it overly simplistic? And if you buy the idea, Do you believe it is possible to make a permanent switch from a fixed to a growth mindset? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below.
So I think we can all agree probably on one thing for sure is that Anne is a little bit of an overachiever, right? I mean, that seemed like a stretch, but that's the two spectrums that they're giving us, right? So you saw through that the two different fits and growth, but do you think that sometimes you can have both? Most of the time, right? Yeah. Did anybody score like a 100 on fixed or 100 on growth? Right. So there can be different things that you look at as far as, right, what do I have a growth mindset about or a fixed mindset? Right? Like, how about, this is a big one for me growing up, food. Was there ever a food that you hated as a kid that you love now? Ever something you said you wouldn't eat and now you do? Right? So what is it?
Liver.
Liver. All right. Well, I'm pretty fixed mindset on that. But broccoli for me was one that I was like, yup, I'm not gonna have broccoli. And then one day somebody made me like some nice crisp steamed broccoli, and I was like, this is delicious. Right? But I only tried it because they were like, hey, yeah, just try one bite for me, right? And you're like, all right, I'll try one. And you're like, hey, this is awesome. And so food is something, anybody have something you just absolutely will not eat?
Eat cottage cheese.
Cottage cheese?
And beets.
What is it? Beets? Rutabagas?
Liver.
Liver. Right? So, even on the Gulf Coast, I ate it with this, I shrimp.
Sacrilegious. Shame. You might go off our island.
I know. Don't worry, I sent a survey out like that. So, yeah, but somebody once told me that shrimp are like the roaches of the sea. And then after that, I could never picture it and could never see it. So
Thanks for sharing that.
That's like Darla in the chat says peas, as in peas and carrots. I didn't hate them, but I do enjoy the peas as well as the carrots.
Hey,
An adult once told me when I was little, riding a bike, and he was like, hey, you need to go home for lunch. And I was like, what do you think is what you're gonna have? I said, oh, probably peanut butter and jelly. He goes, well, make sure to eat the crust, because that'll put hair on your chest. On bread.
thanks, a Tuesday.
Well, not.
So when you look at some of those ideas in it, they talked about how you could get better at different things if you try. Right? So you have to be afraid, you have to be unafraid to fail. So anybody ever tried something and you really wanted to do it, but you failed at it? Right? That was a big hand.
All sports.
All-
Every single one.
All sports.
All.
Right? Same way with roller skating. So I'm a kid from the 80s, and so roller skating was a big thing. We went to a roller rink, and then I would fall down all the time. It was like 3 different times we went, and I got hurt all 3 times, and the third time I was like, roller skating's not for me. Like, I'll do something else. I'll play video games, go to lazy tag, get some nachos, but I am not. Right?
Jessica says piano.
Oh, piano, yes. Yeah, it stymied me. I was not able to do it. Or you could, but also I will tell you, I've seen both ways working in social work and psych and teaching classes for so long, working with families, is that I could see kids that were, how they had the nature and nurture in the video. And I had the one kid that talked about kids that were adopted or went to live with a big family. So I would see that in kids, and what you would see is parents that told their kids, you're not going to be anything, you're terrible, you're nothing special. They believe that. There's that phrase, self-fulfilling prophecy. Or kids that were like, you got this, you're smart, you're going to get paid. Like you saw the mood shift changed and you saw their levels of success change. And now, there were some outliers on some families that I worked with where the kids were told you're never gonna succeed, and they did the opposite, right? And they were like the overachievers, but not in necessarily a good way. It was like no success was ever good enough, right? And so you saw those people that burned out, that worked all the time, that they were constantly striving to prove somebody wrong. Okay? And so I think those types of things, when you look at the nature and nurture, are pretty important, right? Like, who are your 5 closest friends? You ever heard that rule? That you are the 5 people, the 5 closest people you surround yourself with, that's who you are. So you think about that right now, you're like, I need to think about that circle. I am about to say something that ages me. Do you remember cell phones? Whenever you didn't have an unlimited plan and you could pick 5 people that you could call, right? So it's like that, right? It's like your 5 people that are on your list that you can call all the time. So one of the other things that I noticed too in the video was the idea of not wanting to change or to stay in that fixed mindset, because having a fixed mindset is comfortable. You know what to expect, right? So that's one of the things that we looked at with kids is in this field that I work in with social work, bad things would happen to these kids. They get taken away from their parents, and then given the opportunity to go home or stay with the family that was raising them, what do you think they would always choose? To go back to their families, right? And so there were some studies on this. It wasn't something I could wrap my head around. And then one day I heard somebody at a conference say, kids don't think in terms of what's good and bad a lot of times. They think in terms of what's familiar and unfamiliar. And so I think it's a lot of times for us adults too, is that we're familiar with something, right? You get in a routine, this is who I am, this is what I do every day. And so I think it takes a little bit of that growth mindset away, right? Of what should I be doing? Because routines are easy, right? You know, like how kids watch these same shows over and over again. Do we do it as adults too? Yeah, right? Yeah, you have that one show that you love that you'll go back and rewatch again and again. Like, or if like you're like, all right, it's raining, I'm at home, I took a sick day, I can't go to work today, and then you like binge watch your favorite show again, right? It's because it provides comfort, right? Because it's familiar. And so that's where we talk about growth mindset is your ability to branch out, right? To think of something new, to take risks, to not be afraid to step out and make yourself known. And so that's a big part of this growth mindset is how do I get out of that comfort zone that I'm in, which a lot of times feels like a rut. How do I get out of that and make some type of change? Okay. And so you have to have it, is it an intrinsic motivator, something that I really want to do, or is it one of those 5 people I surround myself with that are like, come with me, let's try this. Okay. So when you think about those things, this is what we look at next is the definition for growth mindset. Belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. Does anybody know what the stat is about being an expert in something? How long do you have to do it? All right, 1,000 hours, right, to do something. So to be an expert in something. So with dedication and hard work, I could learn to play the piano. Life got busy, I stopped, especially when somebody made fun of me because I only have over. Right, and I was like, all right, well, forget it. But you can learn new skills. And so the whole like old dog, new trick thing, right? It's a saying, but it's not exactly true. Okay. So when we think about that, we think about, all right, like Susan said earlier, we can get better at some things, but we're not going to change our genetics. I actually did attempt, without asking Catrina for help, to Photoshop my face on an NBA basketball player. Was not very successful, right? But she could do it. But that was my thing. It's like, all right, if I told you, here's my dream, I want to play center and basketball. I want to be an NBA superstar. What would you tell me? You'd laugh. Why?
I know you, and you don't do all those things, and I listened to Dan and how awesome his dad was, and I'm like, and I played basketball in high school, and I'm like, no, it's a dream, but I don't think that's
But that's all right. But here's the thing. Maybe I think it. It's not because I play basketball 7 hours a day when I'm not at work. It's all I do. I practice free throws. I got the uniform. I put it on in my garage, right? I'm dribbling through my legs, doing all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm putting in all the dedication and hard work. But
that ship has sailed.
is it the gray hair?
It has sailed and sunk.
I could, but coach, I want to play. I want to dunk. I want to run around. I want to play on the Olympic team.
Now I need to find you a Gary.
All right.
She's just.
It's not the NBA though. But here's where we're talking about though, right? Is that I can try all I want, but my genetics are not going to let me play. Right? I'm never going to be a center. How tall are centers in the NBA? Right? Yes, they're super tall, right? And even now there's one kid that plays high school is like 7'6" or 7'9" or something. Hey, I think he plays like middle school or high school, and he's like to the ceiling, and the other kids are like, they're like, but he can go to the NBA, right? But I can't because I'm old. I don't have the right build for it, right? Maybe years ago I had some athletic ability to be able to do it, but I'll never be a starting NBA superstar center. Not because I don't work on it or I don't want it, Like it's just because genetically that's not who I'm. Okay. And so that's okay though. Like we talked about earlier, I'm going to make the most of my gifts. So maybe I do cheat, right? Maybe I do join old man's league, right? So I'm going to use whatever my ability is. I'm going to make the most of what I can, right? And so that's what your growth mindset is. It's not. My kids say too, like, reach for the moon, land in the stars, or something, right? So I could do something like that, right? But that's your growth mindset, right? Making the most out of everything that I do. So can't say I'll never be able to do it. You have to say, all right, up to a certain point, where can this take? So let's talk about some of these characters. And some of these were on the quiz that you just took. So tell me about these things. And do you find that any of these apply to you? Anyone stick out in particular to anyone? Learn from criticism. All right. I think that's probably one of the toughest on the slide. Does anybody like to be criticized? I always find that my constructive criticism is always prefaced like, don't take this the wrong way, or no disrespect intended, right? So it does sting a little bit, right? And so you've been in places where you can take and hear a smile all the time. Thank you so much for that. Like, yes, I really appreciate your feedback. And then when you leave, you're like, right? That's when you walk out and cry. But
You remember that.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's hard to take because we don't like to see ourselves as less than I do. And it's hard whenever we're faced with that.
And I would not go so far as to say embracing challenges, but if it wasn't challenges, if it wasn't new stuff, you get mighty bored.
Yeah. And you know what I think too is being able to reframe an idea is a lot of times I'll see myself as saying I have to versus I get to. And I change some of that stuff. So what
And then when they tell you it's a new system, it'll be easy.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard that one before. Yeah, so they were right.
Right? And you never know, but do we want to change that kind of stuff if it's the system we're used to?
Yeah, you get it down pat and it's like, no, we're gonna change this.
Yes, I'm used to it. I'm a master at it. It doesn't, so it doesn't take any brain power. I can just do it and I, no, and then they're like, nope, we're gonna try a whole different thing. You gotta learn everything. People are like, right? Because it's unfamiliar, right? It's not anything that we don't like. So that's one of those. So embrace its challenges. Criticism, I think this is a big one probably for me too, until I heard somebody once say, don't take criticism from anybody that you wouldn't take advice from. And then I was like, all right, because I taught classes for a lot of years and I've had surveys that came back and the surveys let you talk, it was like you graded people and then it had like an open note session that you could do it. And you'd be like, oh, and you'd be like, I love Gary, honest training I've ever been in. Wow, this was great. Learned so much. He's terrible. Terrible jokes, terrible presentation. You're like, oh, and I'm like, gosh. Right? And then, but I think sometimes too, I'm like, all right, well, is the person that gave me the feedback, would I ask for their advice on something? Right? Like what I want. And so that's what you have to do. Sometimes some people are just going to be critical to be critical. But it's the people, when we look at the growth mindset, is that they're giving you criticism, like we talked about constructive things, right? How can I do better? How can I change? What can you do differently next time? And I think people with that growth mindset, that's one of the big things is how can I grow from this? Like, even if you did something and it was a train wreck, right? Like it was the worst thing you've ever done. Right? You ever come away from day and you're like, oh, I really screwed that email up, or I really messed up that meeting, or right? You meant to CC just one person, you sent it to everybody on the list. You're like, oh, right? And you're like, all right, what can I do differently instead of banging my head on the desk? What can I do? Like, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to take it as a learning opportunity, okay, which is a real growth mindset. It's like, I'll use it. So let's look then at the other end of the spectrum. But I think one that gets me is, especially teaching classes, is students that ignore your feedback. So that's a lot. I have a 22-year-old daughter now that lives in Jacksonville and is going to school. And I try to tell her stuff all the time. You should do this. You should do that. Especially what's happening in Jacksonville right now in that area. Yes, you should think about it. And this was a week ago. You should think about evacuating. Think to go somewhere because there's a hurricane coming towards and might come back up there. Oh, I'll be fine. I'm good. No, nothing will happen to me. Right? And it's your little baby. You're like, when something does happen to you, you get to Jacksonville to help out, right? So some of those things, whenever you look at ignores feedback or ignores advice, that can be a tough one too. Right? Especially as a parent. So you ever been in that situation where you know that whatever they're doing is wrong, or you know it's going to be bad for them, but they won't listen to you, you have to let them figure it out by yourself? Yeah. So that's happened quite a bit too. So looking at these, it brings us to why we're learning about the growth first fixed mindset as a university focus. So for us, just the personal growth down below, it helps you to become a better person and to be more open-minded about what's out in the world. So have you ever heard of something called a worldview? Right. So your worldview is not like looking at the world from space. It's like your worldview is how you see things in the world, and it is specific to you individually. Right? So even though we share some of the same characteristics, like we all work at the university, right? We're all in this room together. We all have a job that we had to go to. Right? So you think about those things, right? But how did you get here? Right? Did your experience growing up, was it the exact same as mine? Is anybody in here afraid of chow? Remember those dogs? Chows?
So that could be vicious.
Yes, chow bit me growing up when I was riding my bike. Guess what? Don't like chows. Somebody else in here might be like, oh my gosh, I have 3 chows. They don't want to say it, right? And that's all right. It's how the dog. But for me, my worldview is this happened to me, so I am, right? And so it happens like what type of family you grew up in, what part of the world you grew up in. Right? Do you think we see the world differently between like North and South? East Coast and West Coast? Right? So all those things make up what decade you were born in. Right? All this stuff affects your worldview. So for us, it's how can I look past this and how can I try to see through everybody else's eyes and experience it as they are, not just me and my view based on all my experiences. So the other one, and this applies to a lot of us in here, is your professional development. Right? How do I get better at work? How do I move up? How do I make work the very best that it can do? How do I put out the most exemplary work product? So growth mindset can help you in that, especially with us. New systems we're learning, new jobs a lot of times, right? New responsibilities that are thrown on you that you're not expecting. Right? So those types of things, right, can help that professional development if you're like, ooh, I get to, not I have to. Right? So sometimes it's both, right? Sometimes it takes a little bit more to actually convince yourself. But why this is going on at UWF and why we're teaching growth mindset for everybody at the university is we're looking to bolster academic success. And this is going to happen. Our students, I think, when they come on campus, a lot of them are ready to learn. They're open-minded, right? Remember whenever you were younger, going to school, and you're like, all right, I'm going to learn something. It's great. I'm a good person, right? You get all these skills. But who doesn't think like that in a school setting? Because who do you think has a really fixed mindset at the school? The instructors, yes. Absolutely, the instructors do. That's why how we're just having a 1-session growth mindset introductory thing. They have a 5 series that they have to go through.
They get to go.
Hey, it already works. My God, it's done. Class dismissed. Right? So, what are the 2 big things that the university just put out that we're trying to make a focus? It came from the president's office and provost that said we're going to really focus on a couple of things moving forward at the university. All right. Yeah, so the 16,000 times. So we're trying to get as many students, and we're trying to plan for what that happens, right? But when we get to that, we really want to kind of attract these students by becoming more of a research-based university. So you see that on all the college goals, it has something about research. So we have a brand new center that just opened up, a new research institute. So we're really focusing on how do we get into one of those coveted R schools, right? Those good R schools. And then the other one, if you read through that, is how to use artificial intelligence in our jobs. All right, so let me ask you this. Anybody use AI in your job now? A couple of us, right? If I asked you, how do you even get to on your computer to AI? Could you do it? All right. So it's not something that I use all the time anyway. I'm pretty good at putting stuff down, getting my words on paper. Like I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of that. It's always going to write awesome papers that just rambled, right? So I didn't really need the skill as much. So I didn't use it until recently either, right? But let me show you this, is AI could be as simple. So let's look at this. I just Googled Chat GPT. All right. This, I'm going to click on it. Down here in the message, I'm going to say, write a pep talk for a class sitting through a boring lecture. What? All right, everyone, I know this lecture might feel a bit tedious right now. It's easy to let your mind wander or wish you were somewhere else. Let's take a moment to flip the script. Think about why you're here. Each of you chose to be in this class for a reason, whether it's to learn something new, challenge yourselves, or to pave the way for your future. Every piece of information you absorb, even the stuff that feels dry, is a building block for your knowledge. You never know when something from this lecture will click or become relevant down the line. Let's make a deal. Engage with this material. Jot down questions. Share your thoughts with the person next to you. Or, let's skip that part. This is your education. Take ownership of it. Remember, the most successful people are the ones who can find value even in the mundane. So let's stay focused, stay curious, and make the most of this time together. You got it. Hey, that was pretty good, right? Yeah. So if you have to write something, and you're like, all right, how do I do this? Like, create a PowerPoint on a growth mindset training. Guess what?
Is that how you?
That's how I use this. It populated all the stuff. Now I did have to research, and I did have to add a bunch of stuff to it, but it showed the outline for how you do it.
I just want to put a caveat because I use this class. It does hallucinate every once in a while. And it
Yes.
does totally
Yes. Yes. Good point. So always, like any work that you're about to send out, proofread, right? Because it will throw some random stuff out there, right? You'll be like, remember, the most successful people, there's a tiger in the woods, are the ones who can, you're like, what? Right? They'll throw stuff in, just weird stuff in there. So you do have to, but it is something, if you had never accessed it before, you can just hop on and do it, right? So it's as easy as searching ChatGPT. Now, Catrina said that a lot of you work in Canva. And so there also is this option in Canva too, that you can do it. And it is, and here's the thing too, is that you have to really be careful where you use it. And of course, it's not the only option of AI out there. So obviously, you want to use it in the appropriate place. It can help you though, when you're crafting emails, you're like, how do I even start this, or what do I say? You can put that in there, and then you can use some of the ideas to write your own email. Right? Like the other day, I was working on something in the office, and I had ChatGPT pulled up, and Dean Millar came in there, and he was like, "What are you working on?" And I was like, "He's like, oh, you're writing something in ChatGPT." And I was like, he goes, "What are you writing?" And I was like, "I'm writing what to put on a condolence card to send flowers to someone that is a business associate." Right? And I was like, oh, because I started typing it and went back, and then I was like, and then he stood there and he was like, all right. And just, you can't do a chat, like, you can't use computer to do the thing. What's your guessing, right? So he wrote it.
You did use the computer. See, one thing, you took care of it, so you did do it.
That is true. Yes. If we're looking at the measure of success, it did work, right? So these are why faculty are learning this. It's why admin's learning it, is because these are our focus. Because AI is going to become a part of all that we do, right? So we're using that. We're trying to be more research focused. So putting these all together, we said, all right, how can we do this? Because the university's been doing this, colleges have been doing it a long time in the same roles, teaching the same thing, which is why they've given faculty kind of the, hey, this is what we are to what we want to be. So how many of you had teachers like this? All right. And let me ask you, did it steer you away from your interest in whatever subject it was. Like if you had a passion for history or math, but right, or science or any of these things, like you had an instructor that just wasn't very good and stood at the front of the class and lectured and lectured and lectured. So those are tough. So I know that people don't like the adult learning model, but I do kind of like it. I know that there's science that proves one way or the other, where yes, people learn by hearing like this, or right now you're miserable just hearing a lecture and you're like, I wish we were doing something hands-on. Wish I had a worksheet. I wish I had this. I wish I had something else. And some people are very tactile with things. Right? Some people learn by doing, hearing, saying, right? Like you present stuff back to the class. Right? Some people love that, some people hate that. But it's all different ways that people learn. There's not that one set thing that works for everybody. And that's why the lecturing part of it, we're trying to steer faculty away from you. Because like these teachers, you're not going to get engage your students, and maybe they don't take another class in that subject, or maybe they don't come back to our university and they go somewhere else because the class wasn't challenging enough. The teachers weren't interested. So that's why we're making this big switch to kind of engage students more in the traditional lecture. One of my classes when I was going for my psych undergrad was neighborhoods. Now, it was a long time ago, but it was neighborhoods. It was the psychology of neighborhoods, right? And I was like, all right, this is cool. I'll go into it. My instructor was a super old guy. He looked exactly like the instructor would think that was teaching a class like this. He had like the derby cap. He had the pipe. He had the jacket with the little tweed elbows in it. Like he had the exact thing. And so what he would do is he would stand up in the front of the class. We had no pictures. We had no slides. We had a chalkboard that was always blank. He stood up in the front, had this pipe, and he talked to us, and it was a night class. Right? So it was hours of him talking about this stuff. Now, some of it was found useful, but trying to get all that information that he just talked the entire time. And it was stuff like, how amazing is it that everybody has a grill? And that back in the olden days, only one person in the neighborhood had a grill, and everyone went to their house, and that was community. Now we don't have community anymore, and that's why you don't know your neighbors, even if you live next to them for this minute. And I was like, oh, well, that can be kind of cool, right? Until I went through an entire semester. We didn't take any tests. We had nothing but a final exam. And none of the stuff that you talked about in the lectures was on the final exam. And I was like, oh, so there's no way for us to know if we were doing all right in the class, or what we should study, what we should focus on, and try to do better in. And so for that, but you know what? How long do you think it took him to prepare for that class? Right? Yeah. He'd been teaching that class for years. So the only thing he got to do was roll out of bed, put on that jacket, throw his hat on. Yeah. And then he was there. He was teaching. Right? Does anybody work in Canvas at all? All right. So in Canvas, so I taught in Canvas a lot, especially during COVID. And guess how easy it is to change your class from the first semester to the second semester? Yes, it's super easy. So you could really teach the same thing over and over and over again. And all you have to do is take it out of this module, put it in this, right? Or the new shell, and you just do it over and over. So we're trying to get instructors that are in this mindset of, here's my class, I've always taught it this way, of what could you do different? Right? Think of some things that could possibly help. And this is one of the things that they're showing to faculty to get them to change up their routine a little bit. So your PLN, and number 2 is your personal learning network. Yeah, some of these things that you do to kind of, instead of just being like, well, I have tenure, I'm a faculty member, nobody can do anything to me. I can sit up here and teach the same class over and over again. What's your challenge, right? How are we going to make this interesting? So that's why it kind of is going admin, it goes to the faculty so that they can learn how to change, and then it's up to us to support everybody to say, all right, what can we do? How can we change ours to help you change yours? Right? So what can we do and how can we embrace the change that hopefully everybody at the university is going to be going through? So one example real quick about growth mindset is, does anybody know who this is? So this young man grew up to be Kelly Slater. All right. He is one of the best, if not the best, surfer of all time. That's debatable. In our generation, there are a lot of early Hawaiians, you guys think of the Duke and some other people, but he was the 11-time World Surf League champion. So think he's like the Tom Brady of surf, right? The Michael Jordan of surf. Best in the world. Everybody loves him. Surfs anywhere, biggest waves, all that other stuff. All right. So why am I showing you about growth mindset with Kelly Slater? He grew up in Cocoa Beach, Florida. All right. They do have water, but when you think of world champion surfers, do you think the best surfer in the world is going to come from? Right? Hawaii, right? Or where else? California.
Australia.
Right? Australia.
You have to stay on that board for the shark.
Yeah. Yeah. Then he would be the surfer. Right? But yeah, Cocoa Beach. And so with a fixed mindset, do you think that he would have ever imagined that he could surf and compete against world-class athletes from Australia, Hawaii, California, right? Because as a surfer growing up in Florida, people always say, oh, you surf, where are you from? And you go, Florida. And people say, no waves in Florida. What? Are you kidding me? Right? And so he took that and he said, I'm not going to be discouraged by this. I'm going to learn to surf in Florida, and I'm going to go and I'm going to challenge myself to go to these other big bodies of water, go to these championships and compete with the very best. And he's one of the most well-known and highly regarded surfers of all time. So this is an example of a situation helping with that growth mindset. No, I can do it. I believe that if I try, I can do that. And he hit it at the right time where he had the genetics, right, to be a world-class surfer. So one of the many examples that you'll see whenever it comes to sports, there's a ton of growth in fixed mindset things. You get to people overcoming things and proving other people wrong. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. So those of us that are online, we're going to take a short break. We're going to get out, walk around, use a restroom, and we'll come back at 10:25, and we're going to do an activity. So those of us that are online, while we're on this break, if you will find a marker, a pen, or a piece of paper, because we're going to do a quick drawing activity when we come back. All right, and thanks for being back. Thanks everybody online. Make sure as you're coming back, if you're one of our virtual participants, that you grab a piece of paper and a pen or a marker, because the next thing that we're going to do is go with our adult learning styles, and it's going to help us kind of get up, move around a little bit, and learn a different way. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a tabletop activity. So those of us that are here in person, you notice that you have a piece of flip chart paper stuck to your table. And our instructions on what we're going to do for this mindset reflection are, you're going to brainstorm at your table a scenario or an example of someone using growth mindset to overcome a challenge or some type of problem at work. You are going to do this by drawing a picture on this flip chart paper with the people in your group. Each person at the table must contribute to the drawing. So if you're like, I'm not an artist, I'm not going to draw anything, it's okay, because you're not being judged on your results, you're being judged on your effort, right? And maybe, depending on who's at your table, maybe more, right? Like your old man basketball skill. So, one of the things that we'll do afterwards is we'll explain what this looks like. But remember, you can draw this, but you cannot use any words or letters. Okay, so I give you an example over here on the wall. This was me. So, kind of a symbol. A multiplication symbol. All right. So this is me up in this corner. See, I got the little lay on and everything. And so it was me whenever I told the dean, sure, I'll teach this class, no problem whatsoever. And he said it's going to be a 3-hour class, and you have to teach it on the 8th, right? You have to teach it on the 8th. And I was like, oh man, and I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't even as much as Sunday night when I was laying in bed. I was like, oh man, can't believe I have to get up and have to teach this class on this day. But this morning when I got up and got ready and set everything up, it changed into over here. And I said, hey, I haven't talked in a long time. I used to really love to teach. So instead of I have to teach this on Tuesday, it turned into I get to teach this. And look, that's me down there and I'm smiling. And we have all of us smiling in the classroom because I get to do something that I love and hadn't done in a long time. Right? So see how it is? And I explained it, held it up, showed it. So this is what I want your group to do. Right? Think of something, brainstorm. It could be something that doesn't apply to work or something that one of you is like, yeah, I got that, and here's what I'm dealing with. Something in that same realm, come up with an idea, draw it, and then be ready to explain it to the class. Well, I think what we're going to do, and everybody that is virtual with us, that's participating, looks like our in-person group that we have here, they're all finished. So hopefully you're putting the final touches on yours as well. So what we'll do so that everyone can see is I'll kind of hold your flip chart so that the owl can get it and people can see as you explain what's your story. So we'll do our in-persons first and then virtual. Once you see theirs, you want to turn your camera on and hold yours up and explain it. We would love if you wanted to do that as well. So who wants to go first here in person? All right, so tell us what we got going on.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you because these lovely people right here allowed me to share my heartbreak, and they were lovely. They're just like, so thank you. Okay, so number one is the lovely and amazing and talented James Stronach, who did all this, going on retirement, right? She liked the building. That was number one. Number two is me hitting a brick wall, just a small one. There were people there. Those are affiliation agreement people. And I was hitting a wall because, you know, it's HSA, Health Sciences and Administration, which is incredibly important, but it was a wall. But then, I got an idea. And so I was thinking with my friends to think outside the box. I don't know why I'm looking this way. I don't even know. Yeah. So I'll continue to elaborate on number three. I spoke to the amazing, incredibly talented Brett Haskell, who told me where these agreements live, and I started like acing these DocuSigns because I took the scoop training. And you should have heard me. I think every once in a while, I'd yell, "Woohoo! I got another one!" So I was very, very excited. And then, I had a June deadline. And yes, my brain exploded yesterday, just like, okay, that's my brain, and that's my brain on jellyfish. So what happened was, I'm doing an addendum, and I tried doing it through forms, and the form was accurate but not accurate. I'm jumping to the ball again.
But to the applicant.
So the affiliation agreement was incorrect, I didn't know what to do, so I did the jury ticket. And the amazing and incredible Megan Sims, I'm name dropping, this is people are incredible, and thank you so much. She said, I know, this is like that's my brain. And she said, I'm gonna take your hand. And I'm gonna do that. I want to have your brain explode. And that's what it doesn't always work.
Fantastic. All right. So yeah, so telling the story, the growth mindset, because like we've learned with growth and fixed, what are some of the characteristics of fixed mindsets whenever they hit the wall? They give up, right? It's too hard. I'm not going to be able to do it. Won't be able to change. And then the idea came in use of a support network, right? Which is something I think we all can agree on at the university is critical. Right? So all of our jobs in some ways are interconnected.
Awesome. Okay, so we went with kind of like a general concept, and there's some symbolism varies, but I'll go ahead and explain it in a fruit version first. So up here, we've got a person who is really happy with blueberries, loves blueberries, hurts them. But then these grapes come along, they're gonna have to try grapes. But then they decide to try it and try the grapes, and then see down here, they're all mixed in with the blueberries, and they find that, okay, I didn't have to give up what I liked before, I get to incorporate something new. And so at Genus for one thing. Our main pitch is that when life gives you lemons, you can make lemonade. Well, when life gives you grapes, you can also wine. But anyway, this also represents a scenario where maybe like at work, you are really familiar with a software that's your blueberries. You use it all the time. You know that you're great at it. And then you're being asked to use something different. Well, when you have a growth mindset, you can adopt the new software, get to know it, but what you knew about the old one, about the blueberries, it can go away. You can build upon your knowledge and your abilities. And then you've got a nice like cocktail of knowledge.
Yes, and I could also add that in your scenario, having a growth mindset was very cool. Nice job. All right. Another good thing. Catrina was in a group of her own. Nope, she got some.
All right, so my wonderful stick figures. Those of you in the chat who said they only had stick figure drawings, you are in good company. So I have me up here in the corner with a little clock because I just started here in March. And I was brand new, and then there were all of these wonderful people I was meeting with in here so much longer than I had. And they were already an amazing team, and I am socially awkward at times, and so I was a little nervous about how I would fit into the group. And so I just sort of started having conversations with each individual person and trying to find something in common with them and sort of integrate myself into the team. And it worked great.
Fantastic. And without a growth mindset, without trying or having that fear, we may never know Catrina as just somebody that emails us every now and again from some office somewhere far away. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're very glad that you chose that option. All right. So how about our online participants? Anybody want to volunteer to share yours?
As a Over there.
Come on, Jessica.
Yeah.
All right, I'll share mine. My little was inspired by Charlie Brown. Well, I can't see. Is it on screen? Hold on just a second.
You hold it a little closer so that there's a little bit of a glare. There you go. Yeah.
Can we see it?
Getting it.
Move it up just a little.
Hold on.
Put it in.
There we go.
All right. So mine is pretty much everybody knows. I started in nursing at a really big transition. Christy had moved on to a different position. And so I came in very new, and my position was very different than what was originally done. And so I could have been very overwhelmed and kind of in a fixed mindset. But I decided to kind of just be a little bit more proactive and really search out answers and find things, and it ended up turning into really great learning experiences. And I had a lot of personal growth through the whole experience to where I'm more knowledgeable now. Also being able to share that knowledge. And one example that I doodled here was creating kind of like a little K-word, how to K-Rec class with all of my other admin friends. And because really there just was a lacking in that department. So that's where I kind of was proactive and did that. And public speaking will be next because I'm very awkward. But yeah.
And the how to K-Rec door is like the scariest door for me to walk through.
It was very scary, and I'm just like, what? Brittany, procurement.
Yay.
Yeah. So
All right. So Kathy.
I'll share, but mine's not about me. This is my youngest child. In the first one, he was sad because he did not make it onto the same baseball team that he had been on for 3 years. And I was sad for him. So we were all crying. Well, he doesn't cry. And he was like, I'm fine, Mom, I'm fine. But I was very sad because, you know, you have to have a different group of baseball moms and you might not fit in, and it's scary. But he helped me with growth. Like, he was way more mature about this than I was, because about middle of the season. So, oh, by the way, he got onto a team. The team he left won almost every game. The team he got onto this particular season, I don't think they won at all. So that was added to the sadness. But his perspective on it was, which really blew me away because he was only like 13 at the time, was that he said, Mom, on the other team, I was one of probably the lowest, like the worst players. Not saying he's a bad player, but you know, there were so many good players. He said, but on this team, I'm one of the best, and I really get to help coach and show the other kids that have never played before what to do. So I'm really glad that I got to be on this team this year. So sorry, it's making me cry again. So he's way more mature than I was, and he helped me with a growth mindset for that one.
Fantastic. Yeah, sharing that. That's a good one.
all right.
All right, Amber.
All right, so I'm new coming back to UWF, so I did mine on like my personal, let me see if I can get this to,
Foiled by the background. Okay.
well, I don't even know how to take the background off. None. All right, there we go. Cool. Got it. All right, nailed it. All right, so here it is. These are my 13 stick figures. So I play women's roller derby for the local team out of West Florida, and I've been playing for about 12 years. So most of my everything comes from roller derby, and you have to have a growth mindset or you end up on the floor. So this is like starting out roller skating regularly, falling on the floor, then watching roller derby and watching other people that are built like you play roller derby, then getting all of the required like safety equipment, trying again, still falling on the floor, going back and watching more roller derby, and then slowly starting to smile while skating faster, and now like playing roller derby. And so now I also coach juniors roller derby, and my 6-year-old daughter plays. So having that growth mindset of falling down, like physically falling rather than like mentally falling, and getting back up is sometimes just as hard as like when you're mentally failing, physically failing. And then as we get older, we physically fail more, and then they keep us down a little bit longer. And I broke my wrist this season, and I thought, well, this is it. I'm going to have to stop playing. But it actually encouraged me to move more into a coaching role and build my lower body too. So then when I did come back, I'm actually stronger, and I have more skills that I would not have honed if I didn't have that break. So having that growth mindset physically as well as mentally, I think really does help you in work and outside of work. And yeah.
I love the special effects of how fast you were going.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, anybody else virtually that wants to share? All right, well, thank you for the amazing examples. So they're all super well done, and see, we all learn. Doesn't matter what your art level is, right? You can use it to get your message across. I like that we had problems at work, we had problems in general, we had kids teaching us growth mindset, right? Which is pretty neat. So it also ties into what we're going to look at next, which is hearing from a kid on his experience with growth mindset, and he's going to teach us through a TED Talk. So just a short, it's not like you're like TED Talk, it's like a lot of them are like 45 minutes, it's like 5 minutes. So we're
Michael Jordan said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots, lost almost 300 games, and 26 times I've been trusted to make the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again, and that is why I succeed. Michael Jordan is one of the most famous basketball players in the world, though he was not always a star. He didn't make his high school basketball team because he was too short and wasn't good enough. He could have quit, but instead he had the mindset to continue and get better. He was practicing each day before most people were even out of bed. And because of this, he not only made the team the following year, but he went on to become the greatest player of all time and a true champion. The question that comes to our mind is, can we all learn to have a mindset of a champion? A mindset is a word describing how we think. There are two types of mindsets. One, a growth mindset, and two, a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is when somebody believes they can learn to be good and they can learn to get better. They are not afraid of challenges. They continue when things get hard. They know that they have put effort in to learn, and they learn from criticism. They are also inspired by people who do well. Michael Jordan has this trait, though another person with a growth mindset is The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He was cut from the Canadian Football League early on in his career. He could have quit, but instead he worked very hard, faced many challenges, and is now a super famous movie star, one of my favorite. Did you know that coaches and professional scouts look for athletes who don't just have skill? They want someone who wants to learn, who is coachable, and will give 100% effort in their practices. They want someone with a growth mindset. What they don't want is someone who thinks they are already good enough, they don't need to learn, and are not coachable. These people have a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is the opposite of a growth. These people either think they're born good or born not so good. They cannot learn. They are afraid of challenges. They give up and get defensive easily. They feel criticized when given feedback and are threatened by people who do well. Which mindset do you think I have? Well, Let me tell you a story. Reading has always been hard for me, and even now I still find it challenging. From kindergarten to fourth grade, I was always a bit below grade level in reading. So each night, I'd read aloud to my parents to try to get better. This was always the worst part of my day. Whenever I was reading, I would of course make mistakes, misread words, say words that weren't there, miss words that were there, and miss punctuation. Normal. But whenever my mom or dad tried to correct me, I'd get upset. I told them that they were wrong and sometimes even have a meltdown. This happened from my friends and teachers and with other subjects and activities too. I thought that I should know how to do everything already. And if I didn't, I would get upset. I thought that what my teachers were teaching should come to me easy. Well, guess what? Some of the things I was learning or reading were not easy. I would get upset. Negative thoughts came into my mind. You suck. You can't do anything. This should be so easy. Suddenly, I felt tears coming down my face in front of my friends and teachers too. In my head, I was saying, no, 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 please, no. I could no longer control my emotions. This is where the real problem begins. You see, I lose control of my emotions, I stop listening, and I stop thinking. I become difficult to those around me. And when I finally get through it, I am very tired. This is not healthy, and it's not the person I want to be. I want to know why I was feeling this way and why my emotions were so strong. Well, this year, in 5th grade, was the first year I was able to answer these questions. I learned what a growth and fixed mindset are, and learning how to change my fixed mindset into a growth mindset, and have a mindset of a champion. I believe we can have both of these mindsets, a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. I believe this because I have both. I have a growth mindset with things like soccer, basketball, change, and learning new languages. I also believe we can change our fixed mindset into a growth mindset and have a mindset of a champion. Well, maybe not a champion like Michael Jordan, but a champion in our own way. We may just need a little help to do this. My dad and I read this book called Mindsets, written by Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck is a professor and professional psychologist who researched and came up with the idea of a growth and fixed mindset. Her book told me that I was not the only one that's a fixed mindset from time to time. However, the best advice I ever got was from my teacher and school counselor. Their advice was a one little 3-letter word. This word was yet. They told me always put the word yet at the end of my sentence. I can't do it. I can't do it yet. I don't understand. I don't understand yet. The word yet makes me feel I just need to put a little more effort in before I understand it. I still struggle with a fixed mindset from time to time. However, I now know why I get frustrated and upset. For any of you out there who may have a fixed mindset from time to time, please know that I am proof that you can beat it. Writing this talk, I struggled the whole time, though every day I've gotten a little better than the day before. This is why I can say I'm winning, because I'm here in front of you now today. Thank you.
All right, so what did you guys think? He was great, right? Yeah, so what about the Michael Jordan story? Have everybody heard that before? It's one that a lot of people use to overcome. Like, couldn't even make his high school basketball team, and now he is considered the Kelly Slater of basketball, right? So when he had that, I like that example he brings back up. But what I took away, I think, from this one when I was researching different growth mindset videos was the one word that that's pretty powerful, right? Yeah. So like I like how he had like I haven't mastered this yet. Right? So think about all the things in your life or in your work through the day that you can add the word yet to change the way you think about something. Right? So I know a lot of times it's like it's not 5 o'clock yet, right? But you think about all the different things you have going on through the day, and you're able to change that yet. You're able to change your mindset. Right? So it's something I can't do. I can't do it yet. I thought that was pretty powerful. So try to use that as you go forward. Think about the different ways that you can interject that to change your mind when you're working on something difficult or there's some obstacle. Now, Carol Dweck was the one that coined all this. He referenced it, and they referenced it in the first YouTube video that we watched also. And one of the things that in her studies, she says that growth mindset, if started early, really affects the outcome of children's personalities as they're raised and as they turn into adults. So I thought that this was another really good point because it kind of also hammers home for me a quote that I heard again in another conference that I went to where the speaker said, every day kids look up to us and they're asking us, who am I? Who am I? And with every interaction and every conversation, we're telling them who they are. And so that builds you up or tear you down, that we talked about earlier. Think about this, not just with our kids, but in every interaction you have with your coworkers. Think about this, are you lifting your coworkers up? Okay, like who are you telling them to be in this growth mindset? Remember, it's not that somebody else is my rival or a challenge to me. We're all one big team. I want to see you succeed. Right? And again, like the rising tide, right, lifts all boats or lifts all ships. So we're one big team. Think about using that to pull everybody together. So I want to give you a little bit of a personal story of how growth mindset and fixed mindset got me to the place that I am today, which is talking to all of you wonderful people, right, and presenting this. So not too long ago, just a couple of years, this was me. I know. So I taught for a little over 15 years a certificate program for graduates that wanted to go into the social services field. So if you had an education degree, criminal justice, social work, psych, any of those related degrees, and you wanted to work with kids or families in the state, you had to come through my class, and my training class covered the entire training. And I had a team of trainers that worked for me, and it was an 8-week certification class. So we taught a class, and at the end of 8 weeks, they took a test. We took a week off. We taught another 8-week class. They took a test, and guess what? That's right. It continues into perpetuity, right? So as you can imagine, once you start doing something like this and you start teaching an 8-week class, it was pretty hard at first. So the classes were 4 days a week from 9 to 4. Right? And if you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine sitting in a train from 9 to 4, try teaching a train from 9 to 4. Right? Because you have to have, yes, you have to entertain, you have to be up in front of people, you have to have everything going all right, because you can see when people are not all right. Right? And so you want to have that, hey, I'm paying attention, I'm learning type of thing. So it took a lot of work at first. But as time went by, guess what happened in those classes after the first 8 or 9 of those? What happens if you do the same thing over and over? Autopilot. Yes, you're on autopilot. It was super easy. It got to the point where I didn't even have to study. I was the professor that taught the neighborhoods class. I didn't have to do anything new. I rolled out of bed. I went to work. Now I didn't have like the tweed jacket or any kind of stuff. Right? Yeah, just opportunity. But when I was there in front of everybody and we were going through, I had it all like, when I taught this day, here's where my jokes. I knew this joke was going to go here. I knew I was going to do this here. Here's this activity. It was on autopilot, right? And guess what? For those 15 years, it was very easy. Right? So as a team, I didn't have to teach every single day. So I'm not the one that had a team that went out and we kind of traded days. It was very easy. I knew the entire job. I was an expert in my field. I went and talked at conferences all over the state. It was a pretty easy job because I knew it and it didn't change. But here's the other thing, is that although I had this great job and was doing everything super easy, running around all the time in the world, right? Didn't take a lot of my brain power. What were the cons of staying in that same job, doing the same thing for 15 years? Yes, it became very, very boring, right? To where the fact where I was like laying in bed, like, all right, gotta get up and do all this again. And it was like, you just went through the same tired day over and over again. It wasn't inspiring at all. And pretty soon, the easy part, physically and mentally, started to be a difficult part, emotionally, because there was no change, there was no growth. Did the same thing. I was the definition of fixed mindset. What else do you think happened? 15 years in the same job, doing the same thing. So here's what happened. Here's one of my cons from this job is that my curriculum came from the state of Florida. So I didn't make it. It was like, here's this curriculum. This is what you have to teach. Now you can teach it however you want, but this has to be what you teach. Well, along the way of these 15 years, they updated the trainings. And so how do you think I felt when every 5 or 6 years they updated their trainings? Right, because what did I have to do?
So
Yes, I had to learn something new. I had to go and redo all my outlines. I had to come up with new stuff. Now, some of it changed pretty drastically. Some of it was just new statutes or different things put in. But it was one of the things where I was like, I can't believe it. I have to go through and do this now. But was it for the good of the students? Yeah, because they were learning the most up-to-date material, right? And I didn't see it as that. But yes, it was good for me too, to kind of grow a little bit and use some brain power in a job where I didn't have to use brain power.
no, you mentioned you also got 15 years older.
That's right. You're right. And squandered away my NBA career, right? But it's a great point because I did become 15 years older. And because I worked in the same job and it was easy and I didn't do anything else, guess what else I did career-wise? I stayed in the same place for 15 years. 15 years. Imagine the growth and what you could do in 15 years. So at the time I was living in it, I was like, hey, this is great. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to change. Life's super easy. Right? I need enough money to have everything I want, most, or everything I need, and most of what I want. Right? So I wasn't uncomfortable in that regard. But lo and behold, after all those 15 years, the state came through and said, all right, we're not going to have contractors anymore. Where I worked at UWF had a contract, and they said, we have our own training team, we're redesigning everything, and now, guess what happened to myself and my team? Yes, right? Yeah, and they said, well, we already have a training team, love you guys, but the state's going to go in a different direction, and it wasn't a good performance, because my class was one of the highest scored. We had the most success rate in any of the training programs in the state of Florida as far as exam pass rates go. So we were very successful, but they went in a different direction the entire state did. And so then it became, I sat down and said, leadership at UWF, and they were like, all right, you've been here for this long. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you have interest in? And you talk about a time of upheaval, because as a fixed mindset, I didn't have to do anything. And now it's like your whole world changes as to what you can do. So in those 15 years, and that's whenever it hit me, all these 15 years, what have I done? Right? So what kind of degree do you think you get in 15 years?
In my case, it was hard not.
Right? Yeah, and I definitely did that. But also, who goes to school for 15 years? Doctors, right? Yes, I could have got a law degree, I could have been a doctor, I could have gone back to school, I could have got my PhD, right? Whatever it is. And I had these 15 years that were mine, and I didn't grow at all during that time. And I didn't realize it until the situation had to change. And I realized how fixed I was. And then it was like, you don't have a growth mindset, you don't want one? Too bad, because now it's like fight or flight. And you do have to have one. There is no more. Right? So that was one of the things that hit me and got me to look at this. So I had to scramble. I had to go back to school. So I was able to go back to school. So I had to get my kind of a crash course. I didn't want to. I hated school, right? And I hate math. But I chose a business degree, which has, guess what? Ton of math and ton of statistics and everything else. Right. So it was one of those things too where I did pass, but then I was like, oh my gosh, that's my grade. And I realized that maybe I blacked out for that time. I don't know how I passed, but I did somehow pass the statistics and the math part of it. So that was one of those big things.
Susan in the chat just said, but here and think of all the people's lives you wanted.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Yes. And that was there. Well, they'll see me out and be like, do I remember that guy? Yes, I saw him from somewhere. Right, but hopefully, yes. So you do get to see a lot of students, and I remember the trainers that trained me, even to this day, in that certificate program. But I didn't do it for much time. But and so that was where my growth mindset was kind of thrown into things, where it was like, all right, you kind of put yourself in this hole. Now you have to dig out, and so I had to turn it into well, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, right? So I don't have those skills that I need yet. I don't have that education. So I really had to pivot and figure out what I was going to do next. So luckily I landed here in this college. And like Catrina, I was in Catrina's picture also, brand new. I sat in the conference room and took the conference room up for days, working on who knows what, trying to find my spot. So very grateful that I did find some common ground, and I'm where I am now, helping out and trying to make the college be the best it can be. So I want you to use my example as a what not to do, right? Because we learn a lot. Like you can go out and be like, yeah, I did this, and I'm like, oh, that's good. But well, and you're right, we tend to stay in that familiar lane. We stay where we're at. And so this is why I want you to use me as a cautionary tale. So let's think about what you can do as far as growth, or how you can use growth mindset in your current role. Okay. So looking at this, so this is one of the things that I can recommend is never stay still. Always learn something, always be getting a new certificate. You can do a ton of stuff on LinkedIn for free. So there's a lot that you can do in your role. So look at some of the things on here. I know a lot of you in the room serve on different committees, different boards. That's a great way to have recognition. Like any of the job trainings or certificate programs, take them all day long, right? Find us, well, not literally your 8-hour workday all day long, but in the sense of take as many as you can as you go along, right? So always be getting better, always learn new things. Constant. So you're not static. Anything that comes up, how often do we change software processes at the university? Probably a lot, right? Right? How many new things? I know that one of the new things that we just had was there's like all the new KREC stuff, and there's the Catrina stuff, all the travel. The travel stuff was one way, now it's another way, right? And then we had trouble with some of the old timers with travel saying, I'm not going to do that. I've always done it this way. Yeah, I'm not going to do it the new way. Yeah, right? Yeah, yeah, still do. So it's that they're in that fixed mindset, because maybe the growth mindset, if they look at it, maybe it was easy. Maybe they got their funds back faster, or maybe, whatever it is, it could be some benefit, but they have to open up that possibility. So how about at the university? So I see a lot of people at different university events. So you do know that as part of your benefits at the university, you get to take free classes. So take advantage of it. I have 2 degrees from UWF, I have 0 student debt. Right. So that's just one of the benefits that you have in the job. So go through, take something that interests you, take something that leads toward a goal that you want to get to. I would recommend as much as possible, getting out, networking. You'll learn that the lesson that I did later in life is that it's not about what you know, it's who you know in life. So those networks, connections, relationships, those are huge in moving around in life and even moving around at university. And then put something in your annual goals. Like everybody has to do an evaluation. I always try to put a professional growth in mind that says I have to attend a conference or I have to learn a new skill, I have to do a new certification, something in there that forces me to do it, even if I'm not in a place where I want to. So talk to your supervisor as you're going through, say, hey, I want to add this on here. Give yourself that built-in growth that has some consequence though, right? So you want to know, you're like, oh, I could do this. Nah, I'm gonna lay on the couch. Or you're like, I could do this. Ooh, I better do this because it's one of my goals on my eval. So it'll give you that exterior motivation, right? To do that. So those are some of the things that I can think about within the university. And where this got me was in this role that I'm in now, in my last evaluation with the dean, I said, all right, so what's next for me? Like, where's the next step? So I'm in development engagement. So what's my next promotion? Where do I go? He was like, you're looking at it, buddy. Like, this is like, there's not a different role because of what your position is. I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, well, the natural flow of it is there's assistant deans, associate deans, dean. There's not really there's no way for you. Our system in the college is not designed for me to do a good job, move up, move up, move up, right? So what do we do then if we're in roles where we don't have it? Because it's not like we work like I worked at Winn-Dixie in high school as my first job, and I was a bag boy, and then I got promoted to carts, and then I got to work the cash register, and then I got to work on the stock crew, right? But it's like you worked hard enough. There were jobs within the company, right? And you see stuff like this all the time, right? Like it's the Miami Dolphins head coach in football, right? He started out as like the ball boy, water boy, and now he's the head coach. But he had to go through all the different levels of film editor, all the other stuff to get to where he is. Some jobs are like that. A lot of jobs at the university are not like that. So what do we do then if we want to do something different? For a lot of us in this room, a lot of us online, we're in roles that there isn't going to be, right? Because guess what I'm not going to be? A dean, because guess what I don't have? The experience or the PhD, right? And so I don't have that. So I could, if I said, all right, well, I'll stay within this level and this is what I'm going to do, then sure, I could go out, I could go back to school, and then maybe come back with a PhD. And then go, but some of us that are in here, maybe we don't, our role isn't like this. Maybe it's like this. Right? Because maybe I go through advancement and in the office of advancement, maybe in my role there with development, you go up somewhere, right? But you have to be willing to get out of this is just my lot in life, this is where I'm going to stay, if you want to do something different, right? Or if you have those aspirations, you have to be willing probably to move around a little bit in different things. So think about that. It was a real eye opener to me whenever I was like, what's next? And I'm like, I don't know. This is it. There's not like you're doing a great job, but it's not like you're now promoted to this. This is the role and this is where it is. There's not that growth opportunity within the structure. Okay? So that's what we talk about, grow within the university. look at different things, look at different options or opportunities, and see if you really want to grow, where does that take? And don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and do something that maybe you haven't done before.
So for most of us, as we've had many conversations, we have dead-end jobs. That's what it is. So do you like what you're doing? Do you want to make the most out of it? Or do you look for other opportunities so you can grow and move on? Either be the best you can and, or take what you've got and go and say, this is for me.
And there's nothing wrong with
Nothing
it.
wrong with that.
Hey, and I love I bet if my job hadn't gone away, I would still do it. Because it was something that I loved, it was easy, I would find something else to make it more interesting. But yeah, if I wasn't forced to change, I would be fine. It was great. So those are my recommendations or advice within both the role and the university. But overall, don't stand idle where you're at. Make sure you're constantly learning, challenging yourself, and keeping an open mind. Okay, and that's what the growth mindset is. It's that I can do this. I can broaden kind of the skills and abilities that I have now versus I'm no good. I'll never be okay at this. So that's what we're trying to stay on. So our training is almost over, but it's not over
Yet.
yet. And you're gonna learn yet, no matter what, when you leave. So let's talk about a few people and let's see if they have growth mindset or if they're in a fixed mindset based off what we've learned today. All right. How about this guy? All right. Do you remember Phil from Groundhog Day?
What's the groundhog?
All right. So, all right. So we have Bill Murray and Groundhog Day. What happened in that movie?
I'm young, but I want to prove that I've seen this once. I know that he's like a porter, right? And he's going to fill, Punxsutawney Phil, and, yeah, I forget exactly what happens. I have seen it, but I don't understand. There's some kind of like square, well, okay, before this, he's kind of curmudgeonly, has a fixed mindset. They go and they cover the Groundhog Day every year, and he kind of hates it. Like, oh, Bob Helga, Groundhog Day for Christmas. And so then he gets some kind of like curse or spell put on him. I don't remember how, but then every day he has to do the same. The same day keeps repeating itself, and so then he's kind of forced to adopt a different mindset where he has to try different things. He falls in love with his camera woman, right? Or no, maybe he's the cameraman and she's the reporter. Either way, with his coworker, he develops feelings for her and realizes like, oh, if I had this growth mindset, then my life could have been better. Like this whole time I was just closed off to opportunities that were right in front of me and people that were right in front of me. So then anyway, I think I forget how he gets out of the curse. I think it's like he accepts. Yeah, he goes from being a jerk to being nice, and then he gets out of the curse.
And that's the thing, he lives the same day with the curse over and over again, right? Which a lot of us feel like, that you've heard people say before, it's like Groundhog Day, right? Like the movie. So I lived the same day over and over again. I remember he would hit the alarm clock when it went off in the same morning. He'd be like, oh, right? But then as the day kept going, what did he do? He'd hit the alarm clock when it went off, or he would jump up out of bed, wouldn't even need the alarm clock because he had changed his view. You remember then, like people were falling off ladders, but later on he was like, hold the ladder, and then he was changing it. He made the best out of that impossible situation. And that's what eventually lifted. I don't remember whatever the curse was. I don't know if it was.
But after for a while there, he was trying to kill himself.
Yes. We're gonna edit that part from yes, he had a difficult time. He changed his perspective and everything got better. Changed the curse, right? I know, right? They had the clip up. It's really good. So, yeah, so he's somebody that did this. How about Cinderella? So, yeah, so Cinderella, she didn't just stay the house servant the entire time, right? Right? So she dreamed bigger. And look what happened. And so she had a growth mindset of you can be whatever you want. Now she did. Talking mice and she had some other weird stuff going on, but she did ultimately break out of where she was. She used that growth mindset that anything was possible. How about this guy?
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
So Joe Dirt,
This is an excellent movie.
yes, really good. He's the embodiment of a growth mindset. Everything is a challenge to him. Based on his quote, can't have no in your heart. No is not an option, brother.
Yeah,
Right?
His parents literally left him in the trash can at the Grand Canyon, and he has this mindset. Yeah, well, it's a funny movie though.
So yeah, he goes through all, and he has all these trials and tribulations that he has to overcome. He does it all with a positive attitude. And so it's a really good example of somebody in a growth mindset. It's
Changes the lives of the people around him in a positive way.
absolutely for the better, right? So it lifts everybody up and changes their lives pretty drastically for the better. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. All right, if you haven't seen it, it is pretty good. All right, so, yes, so I thought the same thing. And so if you guys are, anybody that's online, I took everybody off, but if you can, if you also want to chime in, please feel free to chime in too on what you think. This one got me a little bit, I agree with Catrina. There might be more of a fixed mindset because he's like fixated on one thing. But then what else do we know about that man?
Detective and a problem solver.
Right, he's a problem solver, thinks outside the box.
He was orphaned at a young age and he had to overcome those obstacles to be a billionaire.
Yes, yes, right, so yeah, he saw his parents murdered in front of him. Right, which kind of set him on the whole track to being a vigilante, but he does it in a good way to help people of Gotham City. So yeah, I would say he has a growth mindset with some fixed characteristics. Right, so
He also listens to Alfred as advice. I mean, he's a servant.
yes, right, his surrogate dad even. Okay, so that's a good point. Yep, he has those people, and Robin, so he has people surrounding him. How about Luke Skywalker? Right. So he did think about, and I think about this in particular, if you remember when he was training with Yoda, how was his attitude? Right?
I can't do
It was fun. I can't do it. I'll never get this. I'll never be good. I'll never be a Jedi. Right? So he had given up on doing it. Even at the one time where he was trying to use the force to like pull his ship out of the mud and couldn't do it. Right? And so he's a good example too, because eventually he did overcome, surrounding himself with some good people, and came on to become like one of the strongest characters in the universe, right? So I did also see something where there was a joke with Yoda, and it said, after hearing my teenage or my toddler ask me why, keep talking all the time, I realize why now. Yoda just laid down and died. Luke kept complaining. Makes sense. All right, how about, yeah, another
That
one,
would
right?
definitely be
Yeah, oh, I know this one too.
Oh, yeah.
Daniel, oh, I can't remember his name.
Daniel LaRusso.
Daniel LaRusso.
I did think being so
And
young. Being so young, I thought you were gonna be like, oh, this is a Jackie Chan movie.
No.
Like, they did a remake to it.
Oh, no.
And Will Smith's kid. Yeah,
Macchio.
Mr. Miyagi, Ralph Macchio, Karate Kid. Zero skill, zero karate skills. He overcame because he thought he could. He wanted to give up multiple times, right? But, that's the camera, got you into it. So he did want to give up, but he eventually made it work. And so another example of somebody with the growth mindset that helped. So how about this one? Oh, it's a trick. It's you. All right. So after, it is not going to be some life-changing session that you just sat through. But do you think that you will take something away that you learned about the topics of having a growth or fixed mindset? You may not be an expert at it yet, but eventually you will get there. It's the self-awareness to know when you're in the situation to say, in the heat of the moment, okay. All right, whoops, I can even have a fixed mindset about this, cross my arms and pout and think that nothing's ever going to get better. Or I can see this as an opportunity to show how resilient I am or how smart I am to overcome whatever situation I'm in. If I'm able to just stop and say, all right, how am I being right now? If it even inspires you to say, all right, I can at least recognize where I'm at and look at those scales a little bit, then this morning we'll be up and work. So I'm going to leave you with this. The screen. So it's a quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald that says, for what it's worth, it's never too late, or in my case, too early to be whoever you want to be. There's no time limit. You can stop whenever you want. You can change or stay the same. There are no rules to this thing. We can make the best or worst of it. I hope you make the best of it. And I hope you see things that startle you. I hope you feel things you never felt before. And I hope you meet people with a different point of view. I hope you live a life you're proud of. If you find that you're not, I hope you have the courage to start all over. So the growth mindset of, it's never too late to be whoever you want to be. And with that, we are at the end. So, thank you. Thank you to all of our virtual attendees too for all your artwork and for participating via Zoom. And we will be sending out certificates for this. So you'll get those. We'll send out next week. Definitely next week. This is not the best week for anything with everything we have going on, but we will get those to you. Thank you for all for being here. Those of you that are in person, please take some ways with you. Hang in your office. Take a banana. Because I got enough. He's like, I tried to and crab cake and everything, and then enjoy the rest of your day.